There's carbon, radon, borium, radium, and thallium, and 109 others. The elements of the periodic table. We learn a little about them in high school chemistry. For instance, their atomic weight. Hydrogen is 1, oxygen 8. Quick, what's the atomic weight of iodine? 53. But what's generally not taught in the classroom is where all these elements come from. Who discovered them and how? Our next guest took it upon themselves to learn firsthand. It began as a very unusual honeymoon when University of North Texas chemistry professor Jim Marshall and his bride Jenny, a now retired middle school computer teacher, decided to spend their newlywed days in Europe tracking down some of the mines and laboratories where elements were first discovered. They ended up spending the next 12 years finding all 114. They've produced a DVD called Rediscovery of the Elements, and we caught up with them at the studios of KTAR Radio in Phoenix, Arizona. Welcome to you both.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You know, for some of us, we never thought of them being discovered. They were always there on a table, on the periodic table. But, you know, of course that's not true.
Well, only 7 of them have always been there. You know, the ancient metals such as gold and silver and iron and tin and so on. But since then, all the rest of them have been discovered slowly and gradually.
Okay, oxygen. Now, oxygen's always been around, but so what do you mean by it was discovered? Where and by whom?
Well, the thing is, oxygen's been discovered not in one place, but 3 different places, because when the time is right in science, it happens, and 3 people independently and separately discovered oxygen, and one was in Sweden, and the other was in Great Britain, and the other was in France. So we had to go all 3 places.
So now you have a sample of oxygen, right? Because you were devoted to getting samples of everything. So you've got oxygen along with samples of things that are pretty flammable and volatile. How are you keeping those in your house?
Very carefully. No, they are sealed in a glass ampule, and you wouldn't know that they are really the gas by looking at them. But there are ways of testing that. For example, you could put some of them in liquid nitrogen and the gas liquefies out. Sometimes you can just put a spark through it and actually see the color of the gas itself as it's irradiated with electricity.
Well, but you've got them, as we said, right there. So, Jenny, I'm reading in an article that you at one point said it makes dusting kind of interesting.
That was so funny. Right before the people came to take a picture of us, I thought, okay, I should dust everything. And I've never had a chemistry class, so I didn't know what would blow up and what wouldn't. So I thought, okay, maybe it would be best not to dust.
Well, you know, and that brings us to another thought. You didn't know which would blow up and which didn't, and yet you followed your husband on these treks to, for instance, Romania, where you were trying to find the birthplace of tellurium, which turned out to be a mine deep in the Transylvanian forests.
Oh, that was spooky. Oh, that was just heavenly, indeed. It was just straight out of a Dracula novel. But we found it. And one thing we found was these people are delighted that here's somebody who comes all the way from America to explore their lands, and they're so proud. And in this particular time, we had a gold mining group that actually took us in their Jeep all the way up the top of the mountain to this ancient mine called Fatsebanya, where tellurium had been discovered back 200 years ago.
In 1783. But so Jenny, are you at any point in this Transylvanian forest where you get to this ancient mine? We understand there was all sorts of rotting timbers. Are you at any point thinking, what have I got myself into?
No, it was a great adventure. We climbed this mountain after the Jeep delivered us to the place. We climbed up in the muddy hills, and it took us about 20 minutes to get up to the mine. And we nearly cried when we got there because, I did anyway, because it was fantastic. It had all these ferns and things growing around it. And the actual timbers of the original 200-year-old mine were still there. It was just grand.
Well, Jim, tick through, name me an element and where did you find it?
Oh, gosh. Well, uranium, for example, was discovered in a mine which is on the Germany-Czech border. The ore was found there, but then it was analyzed by a German professor named Klaproth in Berlin. So then we have to go to Berlin where the pharmacy was, because he worked at a pharmacy and did his work in the back of this particular establishment, and it's gone now. But right now there's a plaque. And right next to there is a beautiful little restaurant, Konsum Nussbaum, by the walnut tree, where you can just sit there and eat potato soup. and think 200 years ago, this is where it all happened. It's just lovely.
Well, your travels took you, around the world. In Germany, you found the lab where indium was first isolated. It's now a bathroom.
It is.
Where, let's see, chromium and beryllium were discovered is a children's clothing shop.
Well, it is, yes. A lot of the mines and the buildings exist, and a lot of them don't. Some of the places you go, there's a field, and in the field there was once a mine where an important element was discovered 200 years ago. And to mark that, we have to locate the precise site with our GPS, and so that somebody can actually go find it again. Otherwise, it would be impossible.
Well, now you've just released a comprehensive interactive DVD. It's called Rediscovery of the Elements. We'll link to it at our website. Hundreds of pictures you took during your travels, the details about the elements, the people who discovered them. You both obviously love the science, but it sounds like you love, some of the stories behind it. And Jenny, I wanted to ask you about one in particular, radium. It took you to the lab of Madame Curie. Are you there, Jenny?
Yeah.
Oh, good.
She was crying.
Oh,
Give me a second.
are you serious?
Yes.
What's behind this emotion?
Well, okay, first of all, when we arrived in Paris, I'd never been there before.
Wow.
And we got up the next morning to go to the Madame Curie Museum. And we went to breakfast, and the lady said, all of the taxis are on strike, all of the buses are on strike, and the metro's on strike. You have to walk. So we walked, about 5 miles? And at that particular time, all of the museums were also on strike. And we knocked on the door, and we said, we've come all the way from the United States. Can we please come in? And Jim handed him his business card, and they let us in. And they said, we will take you on a tour. So we got a private tour of the place. And it was really, really special.
Tell them about the smock.
Well, I'm sorry. I guess that's what I was thinking about, because when we went inside the office, Marie Curie's office, and the lady said, this is her favorite chair, this is her desk. And then she pulled out Marie Curie's smock, and she said, you hold it and let Jim take your picture. And so there's a picture of me holding the smock. It's really cool.
I guess so. Is that about, this, love of your husband's research, or this love of this woman who'd made this extraordinary discovery? Or I'm wondering, too, if, Jenny, part of this is that there's a chemist inside you that's getting out through all of this.
Yes. Marie Curie is my favorite. I've read like 5 books on her. She's my hero.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we hear about just the love and the passion. That's Jim and Jenny Marshall. Jim, a chemistry professor at the University of North Texas in Denton, Texas. His wife, Jenny, a retired computer teacher. But as we had just heard, his avid traveling companion as they spent 12 years traveling the world to rediscover the birthplaces of each of the 114 elements of the periodic table. Jim, Jenny, thank you both so much.
You're welcome. You're welcome. We really enjoyed it.
There's antimony, arsenic, aluminum, selenium, and hydrogen and oxygen and nitrogen and rhenium, and nickel, neodymium, neptunium, germanium, and iron, americium, ruthenium, uranium, europium, zirconium, lutetium, vanadium, and lanthanum, and osmium, and astatine, and radium, and gold, protactinium, and indium.